In today's clip, I want to address whether a motor vehicle should really be a significant part of your budget. Ayo, XenPuck here. So I live in the grand old United States of America, okay? I mean, we love cars in this country. And heck, I love cars. But I love cars for probably a different reason than you, okay? I love beautiful cars to look at, not so much to drive. I mean, I guess they can also be driven, but mostly I'm interested in cars as an object of art, beauty, and engineering feats, okay? Now I know I'm in the minority, as most Americans associate cars with the freedom of movement and have some sort of sentimental attachment to them, right? Since probably childhood. So I want to address from the perspective of financial independence retiring early, why I think that having a car being one of the larger expenses in one's budget is generally a poor idea. First, some context though, right? We're assuming most people have the freedom of movement in terms of where they can choose to live, right? Also that in general, cars are one of the biggest expenses after housing for the same group of people. This includes obligatory car payment, insurance, maintenance, gas, all that fun stuff that's not actually fun for anyone, right? Also, I'm assuming that your job isn't primarily car-based, because if you're a delivery driver of one sort or another, then there's really no way around this, okay? But in that case, honestly, your company should be providing you the company vehicle. Anyway, hint hint, rideshares and DoorDashes of the world are complete ripoffs for the actual worker. I've covered that already in a different clip, so if you want, look it up in my channel, right? So here goes the reasons why cars and their expenses related to it should be kept to a minimal, if not reduced to absolutely nothing for most people, okay? Number one, cars are depreciating assets. This is especially true if you buy a new car, right? Cars are essentially the ultimate toy for adult human beings, right? There's a reason why most people hate going to the dealership, because you will always end up with way more crap, I mean accessories, than you need if you're buying new. Now, everything that you just chose with all the customization possibilities, if you're buying new, will become a burden the moment you drive away, because your brand new car won't be brand new anymore the moment that it's sold, right? Plenty of people in the personal finance space has written about the depreciation rate of new vehicles in the first few years. It is a very steep drop, right? So it's basically 50% in the first 3 or 4 years. Now you can obviously mitigate that by, say, buying brands from Japanese manufacturers that generally maintain their values better. But remember, if you're the type of person that goes in to buy new cars to begin with, then is it really that likely that you ride out your actual vehicle until it's gone through its entire life cycle? I mean, these days, modern cars can last like 20 years, okay? Rarely do I see 20-year-old cars on the road these days, okay? Number two, the range that a car gives you also immediately traps you in for a longer commute. And to be honest, that's because I don't know a better word than not just the commute to work, but also commute to everyday tasks like grocery shopping or running errands that we all have to do at some point, right? In turn, these now must-have drives cut down on the real quality time of life that you get. I get it, in the US of A, we went through a decade or two of suburbanization, right? That made cars pretty much a requirement for most families, rather than a nice-to-have piece of item, right? Like a luxury item. But I'm really hoping that the trend has reversed entirely these days, right? If we're talking about needs versus wants, right? Just move closer to where you work and all the regular everyday needs that you have. This reduces the need for a car to be a luxury item that it actually really is, right? Look, I'm not saying that you can't choose to live in the suburbs or a more rural area, right? But just remember that all the time that you spend driving to work, driving to Walmart, driving to the post office, driving to the hospital, are time that you're choosing to spend that is essentially dead time, right? Time that you would never get back in a very limited lifetime that we humans have, right? I get that driving can be fun, right? Personally, I've had fun driving in my own sweet yellow Porsche back in the days, but daily commuting and daily errand running don't usually figure into the fun driving part of the equation for anyone that I've ever talked to, all right? Nobody says, oh, I'm going on a joyride to grocery shop, right? So when you choose a car-centric lifestyle, just remember, you're essentially introducing a life reduction item into your lifestyle. It's a free country, right? But just do understand what you're picking here. To me, this is like choosing to smoke, essentially, right? It's bad for you, you know about it, it's gonna kill you at the end because it takes time away from you. So does regular, everyday, boring commute driving, right? Point number 3. Cars at some point will become a burden, right? Now, anyone that knows me knows that I'd recommend getting a used car at least 3 to 5 years past the model year to mitigate the largest problem, which was depreciation, right? However, I know car purchases are actually more emotional rather than rational decisions. So I get there's some leeway to be made for also getting the kind of car that you kind of have a feeling for, right? That's cool and totally understandable. However, when you do have an emotional attachment to your car, like, you know, dudes especially, we like name our cars or whatever, then it becomes almost like a pet. And God knows how Americans treat their pets, right? Probably better than they treat a lot of humans, eh? So over time, as you keep hanging on to your car, eventually you have to decide on whether pouring more money into repairs is still worth the effort, rather than simply replacing it, right? Now we're getting into some real cost-benefit analysis that most people would very much like to procrastinate and not do, right? So usually, I can tell you the average Joe is going to keep the car, and eventually some actual breakdown that forces the vehicle into the scrapyard or some such equivalent is going to happen. Look, I get it. I'm too lazy to ever even sell stocks because I refuse to constantly evaluate whether certain metrics has gone over an arbitrary threshold in my purchasing and selling decision, right? So if that's the case for me, you think I'll be doing the same type of calculations every month or every year on my own vehicle? And if I'm not willing to do the math, and I like doing math occasionally, I think it's fair to say that most people wouldn't, or possibly don't even know the need exists to begin with. Okay. In conclusion, now I'm not actually bagging on vehicle ownership entirely, okay? I've had a car for a few years here and there, and my wifey currently has a small Volvo crossover. But here's the difference. We bought all of our cars with cash, okay? And my wifey barely drives, as in she puts in less than 5,000 miles per year on her car. I did even less when I had my Porsche, right? So that really cuts down on all the car-related payment by like a significant portion, by I would say like 75 to 80%, right? So yes, go ahead and dream and even go buy that beautiful dream car of yours if you can have it solely as a luxury good, right? That's what you should treat it as, because it basically is a luxury good. I mean, I get it that people don't actually usually treat their cars this way, right? Plenty of people just treats their actual cars, you know, poorly or just on average. But you know what happens when you mistreat your vehicle? They're gonna break down in the middle of the road in the most inopportune times, as if giving you the cosmic finger, right? Which is going to cause so much anxiety and stress, and a lot of it than if you always treated your car as the exotic pet that it really is, right? Anyway, if you have a car for track day because you can afford it, awesome, go for it. But for the rest of Americans, and maybe just generally a lot of the percentage of humanity, I would seriously suggest choosing a lifestyle so that you can simply eliminate having to lean on a temperamental item like a motor vehicle entirely out of the equation, right? Save your mental efforts for caring about the people in your lives instead of a metallic box that, again, can be very beautiful, but is just not a real pet, okay? Thanks for listening. Comment, like, and subscribe and all that jazz if you want. Cheers. Till next time.